Hi guys, welcome to Punk Rock Analysis. So for the next 5 videos, we're going to be going over the Ramones. Specifically, 1989's Brain Drain, that particular album. And for these series of videos going forward, you do have to have a little bit of understanding of some music terminology, like when I say a chord or scale degree or tonic or modes, things like that. You have to have a general understanding of that to be able to understand the things that I'm saying. If you want to, you can check out my Beginner Learn Music Theory series where I go over some of these concepts. Now, before we get into it, the reason I chose Brain Drain is because it's one of my personal favorite albums. It has some of the poppier rock stuff, has some of the edgier punk stuff, and it has some cool things like Pet Sematary, made for Stephen King. And there's also a lot of turmoil going on at this time with the band. And I believe Dee Dee was on his way out at that time. So it might not be the band's favorite album, but it's definitely my favorite album. There's a lot of really good songs on it. So that's why I chose that particular album. And I'm starting in '89 because I'm going to kind of go over a brief punk rock history over the past 20 years or so during these videos. So why not start a year after I was born? Just go from there. So today we're going to talk about Don't Bust My Chops, and we're going to talk about a riff that I like, why I like it, why it works theoretically, and the guitar solo. And so let's just get right into it. Let's start with the riff. So the chorus has that "Don't Bust My Chops," and it's got that palm muted G. That's the riff I'm talking about. So the reason I think it's cool is because it's kind of like heavy punctuation. So if you think about what he's saying, it's "Don't bust my chops, baby, don't bust my chops." This cadence is kind of just accentuating what he had already stated. And why does that work that way? Well, let's think about it. First, let's think about tonality. What does this sound like? Does it sound majorist or minorish? Kind of has a minorish tone to it, but it also has like a strongness, which comes, I would say, from the major aspects of it. So it has strong feeling, kind of minorish, but it also has a serious kind of sound to it too, very serious, like. Which I think helps with what the song is about. So why does it work that way? Well, in order to understand that, we kind of have to break down the notes a little bit. So we have this chord, which would say is a G power chord, B flat power chord, and an A power chord. So it has a minorish tone to it, so it's probably not G major, even though we're ending in a G. So what is it? Well, let's first play this chord. Power chords don't have a third, so they're basically genderless chords. And that's why they work so well with rock and roll, because you can play a lot of notes over them, because they aren't like, this is major. It's more open sounding, the power chord is, so you can do more things. And that's why we choose to do power chords. So let's sing do, re, mi, the harmony. Mi. Now it sounds major. Mi. It's got a different feel to it if we do that. Well, let's lower it and sing it minor. So do, re, mi, mi, mi. That's a little more accurate. So it could be G minor, but the notes are G, D, G, B flat, F, B flat, A, E, A. So it's the only accidental is a B flat. So it's not going to be G minor because we have an E natural. Well, we have to think about what keys have one flat, one B flat, which would be F major. But we're ending on G, and there's not really an F in here at all. So it can't be F major. But if we go F, G, which is the next scale degree in F major, and we make a scale from the second scale degree over, so G, A, B flat, C, D, E, F, and G. So same notes as F major, just starting on G. Well, that's a different scale, and that we say it's the second mode of F major, or Greek, I believe its Greek term is Dorian. So it's a Dorian scale. All those notes are in a Dorian scale. So I would argue that this riff is in Dorian. Now, why does that matter to what I was saying about it's being heavy punctuation? Well, it matters because if we break down that scale, so we start with G, then we go to A, then we have the B flat, then we have C, and then we have D, and then we have E, and then F, and then G. Let's think about it in fragments. First fragment is actually just kind of like a G minor. Second fragment is, if we think about the G major scale, it's these two notes. So it's a fragment of the major scale. And then we have another fragment of the major scale, but instead of using the F sharp, we flatten the seventh, flatten that F sharp. So we have a flat seventh. So it's a major fragment with a flat seventh. So you get the minor tonality, but sort of the lift of that major, of the major scale. And that's why I think this riff works as heavy punctuation. So, bust my chops. Pretty cool. Now let's talk about the solo. So, I believe Daniel Ray, he's a writer, producer, guitar player, he worked on this album, and I believe that he wrote the solo, but he might have even played the solo on the record, because Johnny Ramone usually only does a couple notes in his solos, and this has much more going on in that. It's got a clunky kind of punk rock feel to it, but the phrasing of it's good, and it's, in my opinion, it's well thought out in terms of why it works. And just a little just a little tidbit about Daniel Ray. I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty positive he wrote and performed that solo. So let's take a look at the solo. Why is it cool and why does it work? So that's the solo as a whole. Now, let's just think about the notes that it has. First, we have a G, we have an F, which is that flat 7. We have a D. We have a C. We have a B flat. We have a G. We have an A. So all the notes that are in that solo are in Dorian, G Dorian. And we also have a C sharp, but that is used as a passing tone, doing that kind of blues lick, like. Because you're just passing through it. So I wouldn't really count that in the entirety of the scale. I just say that's a passing tone. The rest of it is Dorian. And it's actually a mixture of things. If you think about it, you have the minor, which is like minor pentatonic, mixed with the notes of Dorian. So you're kind of doing a minor pentatonic blues thing, but with some extra notes, so you can be a little bit more creative with it. I think that's pretty cool. Now let's talk about the phrasing, what I think works really well for the solo. Like, it's kind of clunky, and it might not be the most well-written guitar solo in the rock world, but it works because its phrasing is good. And that's just important for everybody to work on your phrasing. So what does that mean? Well, let's break it down. We have the first idea, which is we have that first idea, which then goes into what I would call the first statement. So it goes. That's the first statement. And then we have a response to that statement, which is the. And then we get into a new idea. And then the response to that. And it goes into a repetition of the first statement. And then back to the first idea. And then a variation. And if you notice, first idea. Sorry. First idea ends on G. First statement ends on G. And then ends on G for the response. Ends on G for that statement. Ends on G there. And then that ends on A, which is here. Which leads back into because it's just a second scale degree going into the first scale degree. So you have every phrase ending on its tonic. And that's how you know where the phrases are, those punctuations. And that's why I think it's cool, is because it's a conversation within itself. Sorry. Pretty cool. And it works. So, key things to take away from this is when you're writing your own music, you can kind of do, if you're looking for something that has kind of a serious, heavily punctuated thing, you can use Dorian. Or in your solos, you can mix the minor pentatonic and Dorian together to get some new ideas. And phrasing. Always try and structure your ideas around, statements. I'm saying something, questions, answers, and that kind of idea. You don't always have to end your phrases on tonic. You can end your phrases on the dominant or other places, and then take it to different areas if you wanted to. And that's why it's cool, is because even some of the simpler songs you can learn a lot of information from and put that to use in your own playing. And so that's it about Don't Bust My Chops. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a like, subscribe, comment below. If you didn't like it, tell me why you didn't like it. And the next video, well, the next 4 videos, we're going to do more Ramones songs. Alright, see you guys later. Thanks for joining me.